is a most wondrous gift from Pele, the Hawaiian god of fire. The Big Island, bathed in the blue Pacific, covered by a layer of once molten rock. It is where they all come to prove themselves in the event known as the Ironman. 140 miles in water, on wheels, on foot. It's just you versus everything you can imagine. The full moon lingers, as it always does, and from the darkness, the hundreds of anxious faces are illuminated by the dawn. The looks in their eyes are like spoken words of fear and tension laced with respect of what lies ahead. A race that is cruel to your preparation, careless with your dreams, sometimes viciously so.
Well, I didn't sleep a lot this night, and I'm really nervous.
This morning, I just feel quiet. And it's a quiet deep, really deep inside of me, because I know that I'm ready for this race.
Seeing all those people, getting very, very nervous, feeling very hungry, making myself ready for the start.
I have to pump my tires up. I have to fill my water bottles up. It's the most important thing I have to do.
Hawaii was the reason I was training for the whole year, so I'm happy that the day has come.
Paula Newby Frazier has returned to the race. She's won 7 times. This time it's different because last year the Ironman chewed her up and spit her out. What part of her needs more? What part of her has more to give? And why? That is the question, both the most difficult and easiest to answer at the same time.
If I look back at last year, I mean, I don't feel like I can just sort of tell you what happened on race day. I feel like a lot of things I could have done, should have done, would have done, you know, differently to make the result different, but I didn't. And I remember thinking to myself, you know, this is so easy. This is so easy. I remember coming out of the transition area with, you know, some food that I usually sit down on, and I remember thinking, I don't need this, and I threw it away, 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 and I threw it away. The crux of doing these races is to be present where you are at the current moment, present where you are, present where you are, present where you are. I almost didn't notice it slipping away. The feedback that I was getting outside was that nobody saw that I was in trouble. I knew I was in trouble. I clearly knew that I was in trouble, but I wasn't present enough with myself to say, you're in trouble, pull off at the aid station, sit down for a couple minutes, you know, get something to eat, get something to drink, get things in perspective, get things in perspective. But all I could hear was, you still have a 5-minute lead. Just keep moving. You've got to keep moving. You've got to keep moving. You've got to don't stop now. You've got to keep moving. You're almost there. Push, 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 push. And the pressure was coming. The pressure was coming. Karen was coming, and I was getting more and more out of it. You know, I think I was almost getting delirious. And then there was that whole inbuilt thing of, it's me. It's Paula. It's Paula Newby Fraser. It's the Ironman. She's going to pull through. She's always pulled through. She's going to pull through. I vaguely remember when Karen went by and I was like, that's okay. Have some dignity and walk. It's okay to walk to the finish line. And I couldn't walk. And I couldn't walk. And I couldn't walk. She's going to pull through. And that's when I sat down. And that's when everything just shut down. I mean, everything just shut down. And I just remember it was like everything was dark and it was just closing in and closing in. And I was just petrified. I just thought, you know, if I lose consciousness now, it's all over. I think I'm gonna die. It wasn't a pleasant experience, you know. It was probably one of the more embarrassing and humiliating experiences of my life in retrospect. At the time, you know, I didn't know or care enough to think that I was embarrassed. Somehow, I do have a very, very strong sense of self-preservation. And somehow that did prevail, and, you know, I thought, I'm going to get through this, I'm going to get through it now, my way. I like to think I'm a little bit wiser and just maybe a little bit more, a little softer towards my sport. I don't feel like I come at it in such a hard way. You know, I have to, you know, I'm here to go sub 9 hours. I'm here to set new course records. I'm here to dominate. And I really think that finishing has helped me to be sitting here and ready to come back. But I come back with a different perspective. It's okay not to win. It's okay to just go out there and do what you're going to do on that day.
1995 was supposed to be the last time. But newbie Fraser had a much different vision to the end of her career. No, that fourth place walk to her worst finish ever just wouldn't do. Irony greets her on the registration line. Just ahead is Karen Smyers, who ran past her staggering body to win last year. The defending champion seems uneasy at the chance meeting, uncomfortable maybe that last year was a gift, or just uneasy at being the one racing with pressure this time.
I go to line up to get my number put on, and I see Karen right in front of me, and I think to myself, boy, I think she's a little bit nervous this morning.
I'm nervous, but actually surprisingly relaxed. I see Paula in line behind me, and she's looking fairly relaxed as well. And I'm thinking that we're both probably going to have pretty good days out there, actually.
There was some logical progression to Smyers' win. The race before, she was second, fourth the one before that. Back home in Lincoln, Massachusetts, they'll be waiting to hear all about what happens now.
Morning.
In the men's race, the question is not if, but when. It refers to the 5 Germans who've been coming on and coming on. No one can ride like they do, as fast and as strong as they do. The others have all been forced to alter their strategy. They've won every major race except this one, and it eats at them. Thomas Hellriegel is part of the new guard amongst the Germans, and the new guard are not liked by the old guard. It adds spice. In last year's race, Hellriegel roared to a 13-minute lead, only to lose because of a superhuman Mark Allen marathon. It's haunting, and the only way to fix it is to go even harder out there in the lava. Mozart later is the Ironman equivalent of Roger Bannister. For what 4 minutes was to the mile, 8 hours was to the Ironman. In the summer of '96, he broke the barrier. The old guard includes Jürgen Zach, the fastest man to ever cover the 112 miles of the bike ride, and Wolfgang Dietrich, who's competing with a less than perfect right knee. Once a construction worker, Australian Greg Welch has built a name for himself in the sport. The foundation for that was a championship in '94. He's one of only 2 men in the race who knows what it's like to win here. And that experience is like buried treasure. To get some, the Germans will have to know where to dig. At 42, Dave Scott is Joe DiMaggio in 49. A great champion whose skills are in decline. In '94, he celebrated second place like any of his 6 wins. Now, you might not bet on him to win, but you wouldn't bet on him not to. By the big banyan tree at the pier of Kailua Kona, there are 1,400 people not saying very much. They're all in the same solitary frame of mind they're in for hours and hours, miles and miles every week. Now, this is their final exam. When mind games are a mean tug-of-war between the peaceful, easy day they dream of and the most certain difficult time that is to come at some point along the way. Every single one has a goal in mind. The pros think 8 hours. Many think 17 would be just great. Not one dares to think this is going to be some piece of cake. Every person has a story to tell, and Sandra Bowden's is pretty neat. At 51, she's mom to daughter Lori, who once thought mother and dad were crazy to do this. Now they're training partners, and triathlons are Lori's job. At every turn, the humanity of the triathlon is what sets it apart. Jim Howley uses the race. In 1989, he was diagnosed as having AIDS. That very day, he started training for this one, saying, "I train to stay alive," which is something he thought he wouldn't still be. When a boating accident rips the legs off a one-time National Football League hopeful and he moves on with his life and sets new goals, it's called courage, with the name of David Lindsay. Helicopters hover. They're screaming on the PA. Some hear it, some don't. The water feels cool. The sun is warming up. The swim of 2.4 miles is the triathlon's first step, and the pro competitors get privileged position in the first row. By now, they all want the waiting to be over. Kids on Christmas Eve, politicians the first Monday in November. Done what they could do to be ready. Let's go, let's go. Less than a minute now, still an eternity to fill your head. What if I get kicked or poked in the eye, my goggles are ripped off, or I don't feel right? A flat tire on the bike or a blister during the marathon? It's not fair, but they're doing it to themselves anyway. It's 7 a.m.
For this party that's going to...
The start is frothy mayhem, and what any of the swimmers would like to have is the wisdom that would come from a six-time Ironman winner, a man who has a command of the mystic power of the island and every aspect of the race, someone like Mark Allen.
The race is underway. Finally, relief from the months of tension building up to this very moment. But the relief is only temporary. The freshness they're feeling right now will give way to soreness and fatigue as the day wears on. They'll have to cross those personal barriers built of their own fears, of their own self-doubt. They'll have to answer one simple question: do I have what it takes to finish the Ironman? I've asked myself that 12 times, and each time the answers come down to a deeply personal challenge, facing the reality of what this day takes. Is this a race against other competitors? For some, yes. Is it also a race against oneself? For all who are here, absolutely.
The swim is 1/3 of the triathlon to a degree. After this comes 112 miles on the bike, then a marathon, a daunting distance, and the importance of the three aspects is not evenly balanced.
The swim is a prologue. You can lose the race with a bad one, but you probably won't win it with a good one. Wolfgang Dietrich is trying to cushion the rest of the day with an early lead out of the water. But what does that early lead really mean in this race? Probably nothing. Greg Welch has one thing on his mind: putting some time between himself and Thomas Hellriegel. The greater that distance, the longer he can breathe easy on the bike. Behind in the third chase group, Hellriegel's plowing through the ocean with an awkward straight-arm style, but he's not too concerned. And Dave Scott, well, he might be. He's already having to chase the new generation. However, this is Ironman number 10 for the man, and he knows better than anyone it's far too early to panic.
The view from above shows the Ironman is quickly separating the athletes by ability. In the women's race, there is evidence that the German presence is growing to include them. Uta Mukel is sloshing away in the lead. Not far back is Karen Smyers, doing fine, staying with the pace, and importantly, ahead of Paula Newby-Fraser, who's dealing with choppy seas. She's like a pilot changing altitude to avoid turbulence. Well behind in the huge swells, getting all the support race volunteers are allowed, is one of the Ironman's senior citizens. He may appear lonely in his current pursuit, but the fact is, in terms of what he's trying to do, he has a lot of company. Here's Mary Ann Grabovoy.
All those years we would be waiting and wondering what Mark was doing out there. And I felt that anyone who finishes this race is a winner, irregardless of what the time is. And that finally got the idea, well, maybe someday I would like to do it and just finish. Just finish.
He is Mark Allen's father, and he decided the time had finally come. No more watching, waiting, and wondering. No, this time he would be the one. His first Ironman race, and at age 65, the newest member of the Iron Gents, which, by the way, includes one Iron Gentlewoman.
Well, I've heard that youth is a gift of nature and age is a work of art.
A work of art, this group would be inspiration enough for one of the great masters. Risk-takers all, defying the odds. Some say they're fearless, others say they've just plain lost it. All over age 65, the 5 of them have raced here in Hawaii a total of 43 times, and they don't plan on giving it up soon.
The word can't is not in my vocabulary. I have never accepted the word can't. I can. I can do it. People ask me, why do you keep doing this? And I said, God's going to let me know when I'm not supposed to do it anymore. My best friend says, why don't you hit yourself in the knee with a hammer? You'll get the same effect. I said, no. When you cross that finish line, and I don't care how many times you do it, and I tell all the people that I meet on the bike and on the run during the race day, I said, if this is your first race, it will be the most thrilling feeling when you see that finish line and you know you have done Ironman. Unbelievable.
Bill Bell at 73 in his 14th Ironman. Most important here, perhaps, is to realize that what they're all really saying is that every age is an okay age to be. 139 miles to go. This is the way Mother Nature builds her arenas, the stadium of competition, if you will, on the big island of Hawaii. In terms of who wins the Ironman, nothing truly dramatic usually happens in the swim. Many times, ridiculous paces are set by those who will be left behind later. Swimming's their thing. Wolfgang Dietrich in the white cap has part of the lead. Lars Jorgensen is right there with him, but past evidence of 12-hour finishes put him in the swimming's his thing category. Competition comes a few first downs behind, halfway through the 2.4-mile swim. In those boats are VIPs eating breakfast, thinking how it's a lot less strenuous being where they are. Udamuku continues to lead the women's race, and there's a lot of equality here because behind her is Greg Welch, and then all the other contenders in striking distance. There is a lot of talk about the condition of the Pacific. Big swells in the ocean today.
I've never seen waves breaking in the bay like they were this morning. Normally, Kailua Bay is calm. Today it's not easy to navigate. I've been seasick on the swim here before, and I've never raced in anything this rough. At the halfway point, the swim positions are pretty well set. They've found their rhythm and hopefully a fast pair of feet to follow. Karen Smyers in the yellow cap is ahead of Paula for the first time ever in the swim. And even though early rewards mean nothing, it's a great start for her.
Moving past the submarine that takes tourists on real dives, Paula Newby-Fraser arrives at the turnaround. She's a thinking triathlete, evaluating.
I'm not swimming on top of anybody, and I think, well, that's cool, because in past years it's just been a mess, crawling across people's backs. And I come around the turnaround boat, and the water is pretty choppy. It's very difficult to get any kind of rhythm, and I don't know how I'm swimming in relation to other people, but it's okay. I'm getting through the swim, and it's feeling all right.
Paula Newby-Fraser doesn't know her status because no one does. There's no flow of information until later on, and even that they'll struggle to get. This is a time when you go with what you know. From that you get comfort, but only if you think you can trust the information you're giving yourself. Paula Newby-Fraser is extremely comfortable.
But Karen Smyers may not be. Chances are, unlike Paula, she is wondering where the others are. And Welch in this second lead group is probably thinking, where is Hellriegel? How far back is Zach? At this point in the race, though, it's tough to do much about it anyway. And time would be better spent preparing mentally for the bike transition that's coming up soon.
In the Ironman, for the most part, you're on your own. But they'll give you sustenance, words of encouragement, and an underwater red ribbon so you don't get sidetracked returning to the pier. It's still Wolfgang Dietrich of Germany and Lars Jorgensen, the swimming expert, all by themselves. Soon, they will cease to be amphibious and hear the cheers of the thousands who await their return to Kailua. They can't think about the marathon just yet. Right now, it's about the food they attach to the bike, the rinse-off of the salt water, the 112 miles they will ride after the absolute mayhem of the transition. 48 minutes into the 1996 Ironman, the first competitors arrive at the ramp, which is normally used to lower boats off trailers. Jorgensen has acted like a pace-setting rabbit and is first to emerge. Wobbling as many will, he has given Wolfgang Dietrich a fast pace to match, and Dietrich has. Remember, Dietrich is the contender here, and he goes the Clark Kent route through the phone booth, transforming from swimmer to biker. The rinse-off doesn't appear to be a priority, but pace is. And everything about Wolfgang is built for speed. Even his shoes are attached to the bike, and he'll get them wrapped around his feet once underway. The day is warm, but not hot. And that is very good news as you begin a journey to the endless lava fields. Uta Mukul's yellow cap is the first woman to make the Kailua arrival. Hey, get out of the way! At 51:27, it's a snappy 2.4 miles. Number 4, Greg Welch, is 2.5 minutes behind Dietrich, while Dave Scott is 4.5 minutes behind. Welch is away, and Dave Scott takes his veteran time to put on the shoes. That's the way he does it, and that's that. Wolfgang Dietrich is out on the Queen Ka'ahumanu Highway. Wisely, the locals call it the Queen K. Greg Welch is following, but his strategy is built upon marathon strength. That has to be set up by not allowing any double-digit minute leads. It's the 4th straight year Uta Mukul is the first woman after the swim. Like Wendy Ingram of Walnut Creek, California behind her, she's got a lot to prove. However, Ingram doesn't look like someone who's got 137 miles left in her. 5.5 long minutes after Wolfgang Dietrich, 2 more Germans. Jürgen Zach, number 7, is followed by Hellriegel, number 2. The defending champion, Karen Smyers, has an outstanding swim and is less than 3 minutes back. That's very doable. 80 seconds later, it's Paula Newby-Fraser's turn, and someone in the crowd may or may not yell out who's where. Hellriegel gets it going, and he is expected to ride like the first half of his last name. Karen Smyers is about a mile behind. Paula Newby-Fraser, like Dave Scott, is a lot less frantic than everyone else. All these people and all of what they want is about to be played out as the Ironman switches gears. Wolfgang Dietrich of Germany leads the Ironman triathlon, but he's on the Queen K Highway, one of the things that makes this the race of races. It is long and it is straight, bordered by grasses that have somehow, a magic of nature, found a way to grow here amidst the lava. Unlike most other places where cyclists train, there are few landmarks to break up the boredom. Sure, more and more hotels have been built over the years, but really, distances get distorted, concentration wavers, because it's been called the Big Island for a reason. In this case, its nothingness is very big. 4 minutes back, we find Dave Scott, who entered this race for the first time in its infancy, 1980. 6 championships later at 42, he's a long shot, giving it his best shot.
Sunset glow from a hill. Let it flow, take your fill.
It's been 9 years since I've had that feeling of being the king out there and crossing that finish line first.
Mona Lisa smile.
I have that hunger. I still have that ability to push myself as I did in 1980 when I did the race for the first time.
Never twice the same.
I want to go out there and go beyond my expectations.
We'll keep you in the game.
The triathlon game is now laced with money, higher levels of technology, and waves of young studs who come from far beyond the borders of the country where this race came to be in 1978. So in preparation for what could really be a farewell to an Ironman legend, Scott has surveyed the field and taken full stock of what needs to be done. He's come to a simple conclusion. The bike is where the action is now, and the action is speed.
Thomas Hellriegel has the ability to ride faster, so if he's going to boost the caliber of that whole field, that chase group, or the group that on paper is maybe 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 minutes slower, we're going to have to up the ante. So yeah, I've worked extremely hard on the bike, anticipating that I've got to ride faster than what I did in '94. And who knows, on race day, I just hope I have the engine to do it.
In '94, for 6 weeks, he went into a virtual solitary confinement to train, albeit his cell was a world of Colorado beauty, Steamboat Springs. This time, because of family, he cut it to 8 days. 8 days of hell in heaven.
I needed some time to go up there and really just focus on a concerted amount of training and just, you know, solely bathe and not worry about anything else. I don't advise people that I coach to do what I do, but I know it's been helpful for me in the past if I can almost overload my system in total volume and also intensity. I think that experience that I have, partly just being in control of my physical abilities, but also psychologically, just to sort of distemper the period where I feel maybe overly anxious, I can just gradually grind away at them. The Ironman allows me to do that.
On this day on the Queen K Highway, the King is discovering how his plan is working out. In 3 days in Steamboat, he'd run 44 miles, ride 251, and swim 6, more than doubling the Ironman distances. It certainly sounds like enough, but you can't train to be younger. 12 miles in, Thomas Hellriegel makes up the minute lead Scott had after the swim. The pass is swift and, in a way, harsh, for Hellriegel looks strong and smooth, while Scott is standing and pumping, yet not passing any torch just yet. That has to be earned, and Hellriegel is committed to doing just that. His pursuit of everyone else, his determination to build the big lead. It is all getting started. The guy is good. Coming into view on this video postcard is Wolfgang Dietrich, who has delivered the reality that had been expected, a torrid pace. He's all alone for now, but he knows they're all back there, stalking. Greg Welch is part of a talented chase group that is 2:45 behind. That's a perfect margin. He has said, "My weapon is the run." In that very group at the rear, triathlon rules are being enforced. Course officials call Luc van Leerde of Belgium for blocking another rider. He must get off his bike and will be forced to stand in a penalty box for 3 minutes when the bike ride is over. He'll be living with that thought for the next 90 miles. So this news is received by him with the same joyous feeling one gets with, say, a call from the IRS. Just behind, Thomas Hellriegel cruises alone at 25 miles per hour. Strong, not urgent. So everything is going according to what a triathlon handicapper might say was the plan. One German leads, another is chasing, and other possibilities are mixed in for dramatic measure. Still, every Ironman has its surprises. When this race will reveal them is anybody's guess. The Kohala coast of Hawaii's Big Island, where lush meets lava. It is the home to the Ironman Triathlon. There's been a shakeup in the women's race. Karen Smyers, last year's winner, has passed determined Wendy Ingram, making up 3 minutes and 20 miles. Only one more woman to catch.
Karen's riding an incredibly good early pace. And Ingram, well, she just got 2 surprises. First, to be caught so soon, and second, it's by Karen, not Paula. As she takes the lead, Karen's probably thinking, the longer it takes Paula to catch me, the better. Confidence builds on itself, and Paula's job, well, it just got harder.
And harder. Paula Newby-Fraser, like the Belgian rider Luc van Leerde, has been penalized. Ironman police showing no favorites. 3 minutes for drafting, and that time will be served after the ride. "I'm just going to take what the day brings," she has said. That laid-back attitude is being tested.
While Paula Newby-Fraser has faced many of her own demons on this unforgiving terrain, perhaps no other competitor here has faced the demon that one man has: AIDS. 13 years ago, Jim Howley was diagnosed HIV positive. He was just 22. An automatic death sentence, he thought. Giving up on life, he began to destroy himself by abusing alcohol and cocaine. By 1989, his immune system was ravaged. While healthy adults have T-cell counts around 800, Jim's fell so low that even a drink of tap water could have killed him. Ironically, with the news that he had full-blown AIDS, Jim decided to stop the downward spiral and fight back.
The doctor said to me, "I have bad news and I have worse news. The bad news is you have AIDS. The worst news is your T-cell count is below 200. And that meant I had about 16 months to live at that point. Everyone that I know that's been diagnosed as long as me, or even after me, is gone. I know tomorrow I may not be here. We didn't think that there was any hope whatsoever. I believe HIV and so many other diseases are diseases of disempowerment. Exercise empowers people, and I believe it does that by changing our attitudes. And when we change our attitudes, we have courage, and when we have courage, we have the empowerment. And I think exercise can give everybody the power to say no to whatever it is they don't want in their lives. Last year at this time, I had 3 T cells, which basically means I have no immune system. The latest count was 260 T cells. That was unheard of. That was not supposed to happen. When they look at my blood for the virus, it's been undetectable for 13 months. They can't find the virus in the blood. That doesn't mean it's not there. But see, to me now, all of a sudden, I have a future. With 3 T cells, I didn't.
essentially, at this point in time, even though Jim has a history of all these AIDS-defining conditions, his immune system has strengthened to the point where you could argue whether or not he has AIDS.
I think I'm here now to help other people realize what I realized without having to face death like I had to. Every triathlon proves to me that I'm probably going to be here a little bit longer, right? Because I have no role models. Everyone that I know that's been diagnosed as long as me or even after me is gone. So I give myself my own role modeling. I finish a race, and if I can finish the Ironman, that gives me probably at least another couple months in my mind.
Is this guy nuts? No, he's somebody who really wants to pursue a dream, and this has been his dream. And this is, I think, is what is keeping him alive.
I have to start thinking about the future. You know, what if I get better? You know, what if the HIV goes away? You know, I better start having plans for the future. But last year, I didn't even think I'd make it to this day.
Several years ago, Jim made out his will. His last wish? To have his ashes scattered over this Ironman course. But now, armed with new drugs to fight AIDS, Jim Howley has a healthy respect for life.
The Ironman means a little something different to each competitor. To Wolfgang Dietrich, winning one would legitimize his career. He's leading, but all he's thinking about are these guys. The chase group, who can move faster than any one man can. Leading is our penalized Belgian friend, Luc van Leerde. And behind him, none other than Hellriegel himself.
Welsh has had a year to think about this exact moment. Does he go with Hellriegel, or does he hope that the power of the pack will be strong enough to keep Thomas within striking distance? And so begins round 2 of the race.
Wolfgang Dietrich is dying to know, not about anybody, just about Hellriegel. Where is he? Hellriegel's arrival in the chase group has unsettled things. His aim is to disturb their world, and they know it. He keeps a close watch to see who is daring enough to keep up with his pace. Luc van Leerde, the rookie, is the only one to go with Hellriegel. He probably figures I've already got the penalty, so a gamble is necessary. This is it. 4 minutes behind that development is another. Jürgen Zak, who finished the swim side by side with Hellriegel, is with Lothar Leder and Holger Lorenz. That they are not part of the excitement is surprising. Wolfgang Dietrich is hearing the helicopter over his head and the one over the second place rider, which is also over his head, because with demoralizing speed, Thomas Hellriegel soars by to steal the lead Dietrich's had for miles. And then, just as he's reconciling that in his mind, that nobody, Luc van Leerde, goes past as well. It causes Dietrich to pause, then turn as if to say, anybody else? He knows strong passes that look like that for the lead most times are for good in the Ironman.
I shall grow old but never lose life's zest, because the road's last turn will be the best. A poet said it, the Iron Gents live it. Bill Bell rides along the Queen K, mind wandering, perhaps remembering when he bought his first car, that 29 Roadster for a whole $35, more than he pays for one bicycle tire today. Or perhaps he thinks about last year's race, the one where he crawled across the finish line 2 minutes 41 seconds late after the cutoff. Will this year be the same? 79-year-old Jim Ward and 73-year-old Lynn Edwards have already had close calls today, both making it out of the water with less than 3 minutes to spare. But for one Iron Gent rookie, this day would end all too early, his Ironman dream devoured by a deceptively beautiful sea. Waiting on the shore, Ken Allen's daughter-in-law, Julie Moss, whose own Ironman history has a few dramatic chapters, and grandson Matt.
Well, we think you're a winner for trying.
Well, didn't make it.
Good job anyway, Dad. Think about it. 2 years ago, you couldn't even swim. You took the time, you got fit, and you tried. I'm proud of you.
Well, as Matthew gets older, I'd like him to appreciate his grandfather for trying. At least he tried.
Thomas Hellriegel has no time for heartwarming stories. In first, but with a problem, a pest. Luke Van Leerde, someone he doesn't know anything about in a race like this.
My legs feel very strong. Then I try to drop him the climb up to Hawaï, but I can't. I tried 3 times and I go really hard, but he just follows me.
The race is moving up the hills where strong riders make their move, so Van Leerde is deflating Hellriegel's ego a bit. The Splinter Chase group knows a thing or two about being deflated. Turnarounds in a race like this are significant because it's an opportunity to check your chasers. In Hawaï, start your watch, and when you pass, stop it. That's your lead. Plus, you check their condition. Hellriegel and Van Leerde will find Dietrich is already 4 minutes behind. 60 miles to go, and there's no wind.
This is the 3rd time 51-year-old Sandra Bowden has been lured to this race. Canada is where she lives, but she calls Ironman home. It's a passion she shares with her zany training partner in Toronto, a young woman she's known, well, all her life. They argue like sisters, but they talk like best friends. Unusual, unconventional, they're unlike any other mother-daughter act before.
There's not a lot of families that have actually all done Ironman like we have. I don't know of any other pro athletes who have their mother doing the race at the same time as them, so that's pretty rare. Even though I finished the race ahead of her, in reality I'm following in her footsteps. Oh my God, my mother's doing this. I can't, stop or slow down. I have to keep on going too. She's doing it, so how can I not?
There's no way I'd let Lori down by not finishing, but I mean, I wouldn't let myself down either.
Well, my dad first started doing triathlons, and then a year or so later my mom joined him, and I thought they were crazy, and it's like, there's no way I'm going to do one of those. I'll stick to running. 10K is far enough for me. But then my dad did Ironman, and I thought, oh my God, my dad's going to die out there.
That's what I thought.
And I thought I could never do one of those, and then the next year I was like, yeah, I want to do Ironman. So it was the next big goal, and once you've done Ironman, especially in Hawaii, you just want to keep going back.
For about 2 years I wanted her to go pro, and that's what we wanted for her. I mean, do it now, you only live once, and follow your dream.
If triathlon was never there, we would probably never have been this close, because we wouldn't have had as much in common. Most families just sort of grow apart, and
we grew together.
We just grew closer together.
I guess it's a little selfish on my part, is because I've had somebody to do all these things with, and that's been the most fun of all. She's worked so hard, and everything's coming together this year. Oh, I'm so proud. I mean, I've always known I'm going to start crying again. That's how I feel, She deserves to place really well this year, and she will.
Now 29, this is only Lori's 2nd year racing as a pro. She says triathlons used to be a way to hang out with some great-looking guys. But then last year, she saw herself getting better, and she realized she can compete with the best of them. Her mother thinks she has the stuff to win this someday. She has her mom's guts and determination. Mom just may be right.
The women's leader, Karen Smyers, is finding out that things are going fine. She's pushing hard, going through the same mental processes that the men's leaders just did. And as she does that, comes to the encouraging conclusion.
I get to check out my competition on the descent from Hawaii and see Paula looking like she's riding fairly strong, only about a minute or so back. And I see a very hard-riding Natasha Bodman looking very good behind Paula. So I try and just keep checking myself, you know, do you feel like you're pushing too hard? And I keep answering that with no, I feel pretty comfortable, fairly controlled. And I'm just getting more and more confident as the race goes on.
The Ironman is 3.5 hours old. Paula Newby-Fraser is 34. Been doing this a dozen years and is 1 minute and 20 seconds behind Karen Smyers. And after passing the bike turnaround at the village of Hawaii, she makes another pass of Wendy Ingram. Recalling passes and their frequent permanence in the Ironman, we see a Paula that is looking like the 7-time champion in a rhythm, knocking off her competitors as she needs to. And we see Wendy Ingram dealing with that reality. Switzerland's Natasha Bodman has Wendy Ingram targeted as well. Like Luke Van Leerde in the men's race, she's an Ironman rookie. Never done this, so it's tough to take her seriously, which is probably fine. You see, this 29-year-old with a 13-year-old daughter has the most charming, happy demeanor. She says she's just happy to be here, and you believe it. This Ironman is revealing itself to be a mix of those with experience and those who just look that way. The Thomas Hellriegel-Luke Van Leerde battle is the men's illustration of this. The German tried to lose the Belgian before and couldn't. Now he's probably found a way to be happy about having some company. Plus, Hellriegel isn't worried at all. You see, Luke Van Leerde has never run a marathon, let alone here, and has never completed an Ironman distance anywhere. Plus, Van Leerde has the 3-minute penalty. Wunderbar.
This is one of the Ironman nightmares, to have a mechanical problem on your bike. It's outside of your body. It's so non-physical. You can't do anything about it. Every second lost is time you have to make up later, and it's not easy. Jürgen Zach's game plan was co-leadership of the bike train with Hellriegel. For so many years, he was the Hellriegel of the Ironman, and now he can't even hold on. With him is Peter Reed from Canada, the guy who has the pulse on Thomas. Peter spent last summer training with him and the rest of the Germans. Together, they'll share the burden of keeping Hellriegel's damage to a minimum. All athletes prepare themselves for what-if situations, those they hope will never come up. I had 2 flat tires here in '88, and it took me some time to refocus. In fact, it took me miles to settle back in. Greg doesn't have the luxury of miles. He's already playing catch-up. Dave Scott has never been this far from the lead, ever. Perhaps the only thing he has left is the strength of his mind. We know he won't give up. After all, he is the man.
Hellriegel's passing all the Hawaiian graffiti, white rocks spelling out messages on the black lava. He's leaving his mark on this race as well, and it's so impressive when everyone expects an athlete to do something, and then he goes out and just does it. The word is out. There is more of that helicopter noise. For Karen Smyers, a signal she is not alone. Paula Newby-Fraser and her legend is getting close. For Fraser, experience is knowledge, knowledge is power, plus she's at peace with whatever happens. Natasha Bodman isn't going away. Down by 8.5 minutes after the swim, she has done nothing except gain ground on the defending champion and Fraser, the greatest performer the race has ever known. Not bad for a rookie. Still, her credentials come from duathlons, and this is a triathlon, the biggest of them all. Ahead, with the expanse of the Pacific over her shoulder, newbie Fraser is sailing along, about to do it again, about to be the leader of the Ironman. Using come-from-behind skills she hasn't needed in a while, Paula scoots right on by Karen Smyers. They exchange an uncomfortable glance similar to the one on the pre-dawn registration line. Smyers now has to assess.
I do start to struggle a little bit, and she rides by very fast, and the thought occurs to me that she's probably riding faster than she would normally to scare me away. But I decide not to really chase her because I think I'm close enough to town now that I'll try and save myself a little bit for the run.
How much of the Ironman is physical? How much of it is mental? Sometimes you wonder. Heading into town on this long, straight road, Smyers will have to look at Paula Newby Fraser's back for a long while. The same view she had last year until the last 400 yards. What happened then changed their lives. In this one, you think Paula will never make those mistakes again. Jürgen Zach and the Canadian who trained for this in Zach's country, Peter Reed, trail the leaders by 5:20. Finishing the Ironman has not given these two great memories, so this is not the prettiest of pictures. Meanwhile, Greg Welch, having gotten his chain fixed, is catching up. But what did catching up cost him? In the lead, Luke Van Leerde and Thomas Hellriegel enjoy the rejuvenation of the downhill into town, the ocean breeze, and the noise of the people. As they zoom by, you can almost hear them say, "Okay, Hellriegel we know, but who's that other guy?" When they get to the transition, Hellriegel will finally get the lead because of Van Leerde's penalty. Last year, Hellriegel held the lead for 6 hours and blew it. A year smarter and in the same position. The strategies to prevent it from happening again are probably coming at him in waves. Has been thinking about that darn penalty for 90 miles, while powerful Thomas Hellriegel has been doing plenty of thinking about the Belgian. Still together, they're heading to the second chapter of chaos, the transition at a record-setting pace. Peter Reed and Jürgen Zach entered Kailua 6 minutes back. Greg Welch is 2 minutes behind them. Officially, it's Hellriegel who enters the transition area first. The transition is actually a hotel parking lot that's never busier than this. Greg Welch is 8 minutes behind, losing time, but still at single digits behind, good enough to be a factor. As Hellriegel and Van Leerde finally dismount, the speedster goes one way, while the rookie is herded off to become the first ever Ironman contender / convict. 3 minutes in the penalty box.
So when you started it, you have a 3-minute count. He's got you down already. Your number? 37. Put my clothes on? Go. So, sit down. You can drink water or go to the restroom.
Hellriegel is making the transition to marathon man, having had the fastest bike ride ever. Now he'll begin the 26-mile run all by himself. When Van Leerde's 3 minutes is up, though, Hellriegel will be part of Van Leerde's first ever marathon. The unknown of that has to be unsettling.
You have my bag ready?
And so it begins. The one thing that has undermined all the strong Germans, the old guard Zach included, the new guard of Hellriegel too. This is the part of the Ironman Triathlon Championship where they haven't been good enough.
Tell me where to run, please. Can you move? Go! Go! We don't have it. In the penalty box.
There are two ways to deal with this. Let the frustration of sitting for 3 minutes blow your whole race, or find a way to convince yourself that you will overcome the penalty. Luke's got to be thinking back to last year's race where Hellriegel lost a 13-minute lead. He only needs to make up 3. Blind innocence may be to his advantage. Paula Newby-Fraser isn't so innocent. After 7 wins here, she knows what the run's like. She knows the best way to deal with the upcoming penalty will be to remain calm. Trick yourself. Find a way to turn this to your advantage.
I'm coming down a lead drive. Actually, I'm not stressed at all about my penalty. I'm thinking to myself, it's going to be good. I wouldn't mind taking a seat for 3 minutes. At home, when I do a bike ride and go out for a run, I don't just charge out the door. I'm always sitting at home for at least 5 minutes before I head out to run. So here it is again. This is just like another day at home, another day of training.
Paula Newby-Fraser has taken a negative and turned it into a positive, one from her everyday practice regimen. Somewhere Norman Vincent Peale is smiling. At this point, all you need to know about happy Natasha Bodman are the numbers. She's turned 8:30 into only a 1 minute and 15-second deficit, passing Karen Smyers into second. Another Swiss who likes the clock. Smyers' day has obviously headed in the wrong direction. She talked earlier about feeling in control and more confident as the race moved along. That's ancient history now. Recapturing those feelings somehow are what she has to be all about. Maybe a little hill, some gravity, and a free ride will help. Luke Van Leerde's first ever marathon begins. Talk about an X factor. Ahead, Hellriegel's legs have brought him to the pit. Actually a turnaround only 1 mile into the run. As he moves through here, the competition is arriving there at the transition 5:40 behind. Hellriegel can't allow himself to think about how he blew the lead last year at mile 23. The first of the good runners, Greg Welch, is in the transition 8:15 behind. This is his self-proclaimed weapon now, this marathon where he will attempt to win in Hawaii again. The early turnaround gives Hellriegel and Luke Van Leerde a chance to see each other again. For now, the 3-minute penalty is holding as the time separation between them. Greg Welch just can't think about what if the chain hadn't come undone. The frustration of knowing the leaders are already beginning the final phase of the race when you may have 5 hours before you get there is something David Lindsay won't allow himself to think. He's one of the 1,400 doing what he's got to do, what he's focused his life to do. Overcome everything. The physical, the mental, the miles, the heat, the hurt, and the Ironman. Watching them attempt it is why we're here, as it tells you everything you need to know about the spirit that could exist in all of us. More dreams have been fried out amongst the lava of the Big Island than wishes granted. Half-baked ideas of pretenders have been exposed for what they are. Many more have come here to relax under an umbrella with a Mai Tai than to compete. Those seeking paradise, however, are much less compelling than those seeking truth. About themselves, who they are they good, maybe great? To be that, just swimming won't do it. Even if you're hell on wheels, you still better have more. It takes all 3 disciplines of the Ironman to do it right. It takes all 3 and nothing less. In the final chapter, we are about to see which one will be the one. Greg Welch was the man once. What would he give to have that feeling back? Fourth and fading. Dave Scott knows all about the three disciplines, winning this 6 times, setting the early standard for all others to chase. There are ways to end careers like his, and then there are the ways you don't want to think about. His bike ride will put him 24 minutes back in 25th place. You could say it was a rough ride. 2 years ago, he worried too much about the ride and finished second. What now?
I think one of the disappointments that I had in '94, because I went into the expectation that I've always run well there, and I'm going to run well again, so I spent a lot of time on the bike out of fear, boosting my cycling, but literally letting go of my running a little bit. And that's something that I've tried to turn around the last 8 months, is I don't want to have a weakness on my run. I want to be able to finish that race as solid as I can. And I don't want to have an excuse at the end of the run. I went 2:53 in '94. I don't want to run that slow again.
So here is Dave Scott, on the wrong side of his prime, grabbing onto some strength perhaps built in the Rocky Mountains of Colorado, the one that still gives him belief. The race still belongs to Thomas Hellriegel, who appears to be holding up well. The expanse of the Queen K Highway, the sun, the event, had undone him before at mile 23. That was last year. Paula Newby-Frazier rounds the final turn into the transition, leading the women's race. Her bike time is 5:01:34, good enough to have handled Wendy Ingram, Karen Smyers, and everyone in between. What's between her and the marathon is a 3-minute penalty. As promised, her calm walk is almost unnerving. Could it be she's making believe that this is a training day and she's heading to the kitchen to cool off before the run? That just may be. Only 65 seconds behind her is Natasha Bodman. Miss Happy has been almost 8 minutes faster on the bike than Paula. That is startling and good enough because of the penalty to guarantee her the lead.
Paula, how early on was the penalty assessed and what was it for?
It was in the first 10 miles. It was assessed in the first 10 miles. There were just a lot of guys coming by, and I mean, they were just calling everybody that was around, so.
Drafting?
Yeah, it's the only thing they're calling people for.
Knowing you had the penalty waiting here for you, did it change your ride?
No, not at all. I mean, you just got to take the day as it comes, you know.
And talk about taking the day as it comes. Here's Natasha. She's a rookie who figured out a way to turn in a veteran's bike ride. Karen, by the grace of Paula's penalty, she's back even with her. She had a pre-race goal to start the run with Paula in sight, and she will.
Like any other sport, rookies are supposed to pay their dues before they win. It's not supposed to happen any other way. Here, it's happening. A rookie leads the Ironman. And while Natasha Bodman said no matter what happens, she's happy to be here. Leading the marathon, she's got to be mega happy, or the Swiss equivalent.
Staying calm for the penalty is one thing, but now Paula Newby-Frazier is going to have to do something that she has never been able to do in the past. She'll have to race someone head-to-head from the start of the run. And here comes that someone, Karen. She knows Paula had a penalty. What she doesn't know is that Paula is still sitting in the box. Paula's in a very different position. She's having to come from behind. Staying calm? We'll see.
They have no idea who she is, but they're cheering for Natasha Bodman anyway. Before dawn, Paula Newby-Frazier met Karen Smyers on the registration line. Then they passed on the bike. Now they're together in the transition tent. To be in their heads would be revealing to say the least. But the irony ends as the tent reveals Smyers exiting first to grab second place. "20 seconds later, Paula Newby-Frazier leads in third. The penalty gave Bodman and Smyers a power play opportunity, and they've scored.
Four, three.
Out on the Queen K Highway, dealing with whatever thoughts he's dealing with, Thomas Hellriegel is plugging along. It strikes you he does not have, with those short legs, a runner's body. But you know what? His lead is up to 5 minutes. It is a growing deficit then for Luc van Lierde. His first marathon has him speaking out loud, too, about his personal discoveries. It's hotter than I thought, he said. Is that the beginning of the reconciliation that this is not his day? To Greg Welch, they could say we've got some good news and we've got some bad news. The good news is you passed Peter Reed. The bad news is the only reason is he's going slower than you. Losing a minute in the first 11 miles, Welch is over 9 minutes behind. And if the marathon is to be his weapon, he better soon unsheath his sword, if he's got one. The pass had that look of permanence, too. Even so, Peter Reed has shown that Canadians could have a rooting interest in the future. And the German training methods he used are strong. To an untrained eye, there may be no clues. But to Paula Newby-Fraser, Karen Smyers, she's history.
I'm closing on Karen significantly. I'm looking at her, my leg turnover is quicker, and I notice that she's hugging the left-hand side of the road where it's a little shadier. She's not interested in trying to run any of the tangents. And I'm thinking, I've got her.
Now that you know what Paula did, you can see in just how much trouble Karen Smyers really is. This is her worst-case scenario, and it doesn't look like there's anything she can do about it. About the only thing that Natasha Bodman isn't doing is waving to the crowd and yelling, "Hi!" She had no expectations. Whether she still has no expectations is impossible to tell. She's in first and a potential rookie of the year. Bonking is a dirty word in triathlon, and its look is Karen Smyers. It's total depletion, and Paula's not looking back.
Now I'm looking ahead to Natasha, to whom I had paid no attention, given no thought, given no energy to her. She's just such an unknown quantity to me right now. I know of her exceptional races this year, but somebody is not exceptional to me until I have had to do battle with them, really.
Paula's matter-of-fact, calm execution of strategy is Lombardi-like, and this is a payoff of that philosophy. A pass of Natasha Bodman for first place. There's a 4-mile sidetrack off the Queen K called the Energy Lab. Maybe one day they'll do an experiment to find out why runners have none when they leave. It's straight ahead. Thomas Hellriegel is in the Energy Lab, which is a scientific-sounding place that's really a right turn off the course, 2 miles downhill, 2 miles uphill. The Masters has Amen Corner, Boston has Heartbreak Hill, the Ironman has the Energy Lab. Luc van Lierde's wife is actually listening to the race live back in Belgium. On the radio, she's hearing that her husband is heading toward the OK Corral of the race, where things get decided. There's also a turnaround here where you can check each other out. Thomas Hellriegel is close to that point, and when he sees Luc van Lierde, he may be demoralized for how good he looks and how his 5-minute lead is down to 3. The German is in trouble, actually crossing the roads at aid stations that were intended for runners heading the other way. Plus, the grab of the hamstring means he's got a leg problem, which means he's got a confidence problem. Years ago, Greg Welch would win the race at the pace he's running. Not now. And when you find that out in the hottest part of the course, it breaks your spirit.
Now there's no more guessing. In this brief moment, they know where they stand. Luke can see the win is possible. And Hellriegel, he knows it may not be. Painfully for Welsh, 9 minutes has become 11.
The protection of the lead is like Hellriegel's hat, slightly askew. The sun is getting to it. Not based on any other marathon he's ever run. There aren't any. Luc van Lierde is energized, and in an Ironman sense, he's flying. Dave Scott had an uncharacteristically slow swim and a bike ride much slower than the leaders, but he's here and still one of the best, moving up the standings, maybe salvaging this thing. Hellriegel's deja vu? It's mile 23. Now, finally, after 137 miles, the theme of this Ironman is revealing itself. It's the rookies and that innocence versus the experience and the power that comes with it. Can the foal catch the thoroughbred? Depends on the breed. As Luc van Lierde gains on Hellriegel, Natasha Bodman has not given up recapturing Newbie Fraser. At 12.5 miles in with 14 to go, she's gaining. What nerve. Newbie Fraser passes Hellriegel. They're both in front and exchange congratulations.
Awesome.
The bad news for Paula Newbie Fraser is how long it is for Hellriegel to find another woman to say hello to. It's only a matter of seconds, and it's Natasha Bodman, who is that close to the lead. In 4 amazing miles, Luc van Lierde picks up 2 minutes in the lab. Energy transfer in progress. Hellriegel's got a leak. Van Lierde's tank is full for now. The women are 10 miles back at mile 13, and Paula is definitely feeling this impossible-to-figure presence of Natasha. For the first time, the great champion shows anxiety. Hellriegel continues on, in trouble, as the mystique of mile 23 takes hold of him for a second straight year. His hamstring is tightening, and grabbing it won't help. His intake of fluids has been frantic. So powerful on the bike, so vulnerable now. Passes in the marathon just aren't recovered from. Yet everything about Bodman is against the grain of history. Steps away from one of the great moments, perhaps, of her athletic life. And it's a thumbs up for someone she doesn't know? Actually, it's pretty neat, and they are steps apart. And Van Lierde and Bodman could write a book about living in parallel universes. The moment is now, and the unlikeliest of all, the rookie so purely in this race passes the champion. What wasn't known to Paula was how much to respect the Swiss runner. Now she knows. That book they could write will include how close in time their fortunes matched. Thomas Hellriegel has come apart in his mile of undoing. Luc van Lierde shows no sign of having any problems himself. Once again, a German lesson about how in Hawaii they'll have to be even better. But to be knocked back by a first-time marathoner, how do you deal with that? In the meantime, 2 rookies lead the race. 2 rookies lead the race. The Energy Lab means the same to the women as it does to the men. Guess what? Natasha has found a positive about the place. What a surprise. It involves nearing the sea, and maybe that's because there is no ocean in Switzerland.
I only heard that the Energy Lab must be something people told it is the hell, other people told it is just enormous hot there. I feel good because I'm on the part where I have certainly my high in this race. I feel good and I start singing. I don't sing loud, but I sing with my heart. And I see the water of the sea. It looks beautiful and it gives me power to go on, to turn around down there.
At the pass in the turnaround at the Energy Lab, Paula Newbie Fraser can assess the damage. She's fallen behind by a minute. The sea has given Bodman exactly what she said. Karen Smyers, the defending champion of the race, has been reduced to walking. Everywhere you look, there's evidence of why the Ironman has to be respected. It doesn't care who you are or what you've done. Last year, she was tracking down the lead. Now she's battling to hold on to what she has. Third place. A much happier place is Kailua Kona, where the people have been hearing the waves crash since dawn. They've knocked on the door here in recent years. It was thought a lock they would break through. Now finally they, the Europeans, have, only it's not the Germans, a win in the Ironman. It is Luc van Lierde, and it is Belgium. Breaking all the rules, he sets the course record by 3.5 minutes. His first marathon ever is also the second fastest of all time. Only Mark Allen has one better.
He breaks the record by over 3.5 minutes. And let's not forget, this man had a 3-minute penalty on the
Hellriegel is arriving, but Van Lierde has arrived. He knew he had to be better to win, and he was. His swim improved by a minute. On the bike, he was quicker by 5, and overall, he is 20 minutes better. 20 minutes! And still, Thomas Hellriegel didn't get the win. Recalling the images of Hellriegel riding his bicycle so powerfully, it was impossible to envision this. Then again, when he couldn't lose Van Lierde on the hills leading to Hawaï so many miles ago, maybe we should have believed, just like the Belgian did, in himself. The finish line is still abuzz over what has happened. Luc van Lierde of Belgium has won as a rookie. Here's Marianne Grabavoy.
Luc, congratulations. When did you realize that you could catch Hellriegel on the run?
When I went into the energy lap, I knew I went from 3 minutes to 5 minutes, and at the energy lap I came back to 4 minutes. So I said, well, maybe it's possible, but I have to hurt myself really hard. So in the energy lap, normally I was going to take it easier in the energy lap, but I did a little bit more intensive. So I took about 2 minutes in the energy lap, so I came out with 2 minutes behind, and still I wasn't sure I was going to win the race. But then it came to 1:10, 1 minute. Even at that point I wasn't sure I was going to win the race. The only point I was sure I was going to win the race was about 400 yards before the end, because if you remember the coverage of last year, that Paula crashed down, so anything can happen even a half a mile from the end. So it's still a half a mile to go. So then I realized I've won this race.
Van Lierde knows his Ironman history, and Paula Newby-Fraser is a big part of that. A big part of why so many are here. She has not broken down after the startling pass, not at all. In fact, the lead, which was up to a minute for Natasha Bodman, is shrinking. Paula's testing survival instincts and a distinct philosophical overhaul after what happened to her last year.
I don't feel like this race is a sense of completion. I completed last year. Last year was complete, and I you know, I did complete it, and this is a different year. I'm not out there for vindication, win or lose. You know, I'm out there because I love to be a part of it, and I'm just sort of here to do my job, really.
What a unique job, and what a unique disposition. Many say you learn less from winning than from defeat. With 6 miles to go, Natasha Bodman knows Paula's back, only 40 feet away. Others check the race. Someone's in front of Paula?
24 minutes down starting the run, Dave Scott could have given up. He could have said, I'm 42 years old and the hotel is just around the corner. I'm quitting. But he didn't. He lived his own legend.
He is received like a local, and if there was a key to the city, he would have it. After 6 wins here, Dave Scott has almost been more impressive with his second-place finish in '94 and his placing here. Crossing the finish line, it is remarkable how he goes from depleted competitor to sensitive dad and husband in a matter of seconds. It tells you he knows what matters.
What an incredible run by the King of Kona, the Lord of the Lava.
The final standings reveal the Van Leerder Shocker and the Hellriegel Disappointment. They both broke the course record. Greg Welch's time would have won 2 years ago. Peter Reed is an up-and-comer, and Dave Scott has the heart we all knew about. One down, and one of the most dramatic showdowns in Ironman history to go. Natasha Bodman has a Hall of Famer behind her, and Paula Newby-Fraser is pulling out all the survival tricks. In fact, as Bodman swings away to cool off her hat, Newby-Fraser realizes she can cut her off from the next available water bottle by grabbing it first. And so they go, through a time when you believe a few inches may matter. After 20 minutes and 3 miles of one-on-one head games, experience beats innocence. Paula eventually gains an edge and builds on it. Getting close to the village, she makes sure the lead is solid. Bodman is beaten, but not broken. Steps from a lead drive, Paula stops at her place of humiliation. Makes fun of it, then puts it in her past. Now, for an unprecedented 8th time, Paula Newby-Fraser hears the cheers. So different from last year. So perfect for someone as good as her. list of women in the mix through the entire day was small yet strong. Paula wound up winning by 4.5 minutes over Natasha Bodman, then Karen Smyers, Wendy Ingram, and Uta Mughal. The Ironman's women's race has never been as competitive as this. Back to Marianne Grabavoy.
After last year's second, how important was it to you to win this year?
It wasn't important to win, and I think that's probably why I did. I came here to capture what I love about this race, my passion for it, to just sort of be out here and be part of this challenge, this great event. And, you know, it wasn't important for me to win. When Natasha went by, I mean, there were thoughts, you know, maybe I'll be second. I thought, you know what, it's been a privilege to be part of such a competitive race. And if I finish second or third, it's okay, you know what I mean? This is what competing's all about.
2 years in a row, 2 very dramatic finishes. Is this it, or will you be back?
You know what? I can't answer that question right now. I really can't answer it. You know, I'm going to take a rest and see what pans out.
It was terrific. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
As it has always been on Hawaii's Big Island, there is the triathlon for the champions and the triathlon for all the other winners. Natasha Bodman didn't have to be told how ridiculously special her day had been. You could see it. She knew. First time, second place. She learned about herself today, and the news was good. Looking like she won, and she had, running the second fastest marathon of any woman. The other battles to make it went on into the night, and David Lindsay was not about to lose. Iron Gent at 79 was Jim Ward. His race was too slow to officially continue, but he did it anyway. He loves to ride at sunset. It was a year ago that 73-year-old Bill Bell was so close to making it, but the help he got and the clock said, "You're too late." Past midnight, he touched the line, but it was all unofficial. It was by a matter of minutes that he touched the line too late. Now his focus was to beat the clock. Jim Howley made it, and while he's at it, he's beating AIDS. Cheer for him. Loudly for David Lindsay. Recognize the spirit, the commitment, the success. Sandra Bowden looked to be in pain until she saw the smile of her daughter. Kept coming in different shapes of conditions and contrasting levels of expectation achieved. And while some may look ready for the emergency room, in fact, in a matter of moments they'd say, "It's the best thing I've ever done." They said I couldn't. I said I can. The parade of challenge continued as Bill Bell tried to become one of them. Just before midnight, Bill Bell did make it and became one of them with minutes to spare. A second chance, a beaten clock. The Ironman. A chance at redemption.